Welcome in, everybody. It's time for another deep dive. And today, we're cracking open one of America's most notorious cases, the Menendez brothers.
Absolutely.
You've probably heard the name. You probably know the basics. Two brothers convicted of killing their parents in Beverly Hills way back in '89. Yeah. But trust me, there's a reason this case still has people talking, even after all this time.
It's fascinating.
Also,
it's so much more than a whodunit.
Right.
We're going to take you beyond the headlines.
Yeah.
Uncover the real story.
Okay.
The motivations,
right.
the family dynamics,
right.
the lasting impact of this whole event.
Okay, so we've got some incredible source material here to dig into.
Oh, we do.
Buckle up.
Yeah.
Get ready for some shocking details.
Absolutely.
Some unexpected twists.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's rewind back to the 1980s Beverly Hills, Sunshine Mansions. The seemingly perfect Menendez family. We've got Jose.
The successful Cuban immigrant patriarch.
Made it big.
Made it big in entertainment.
In entertainment, yep.
His wife, Kitty, and their two sons, Lyle and Eric.
Right.
On the surface.
From the outside, they had it all.
They had it all.
Right, a life.
Life most people could only dream of.
Most people could only dream of. Yeah. But behind that facade, a much darker story was unfolding.
Behind that facade.
Yeah, and that darkness exploded on August 20th, 1989.
Oh, yeah.
Jose and Kitty were home.
At home relaxing.
Relaxing in their den.
In their den.
When they were brutally shot and killed.
Brutally.
And I say brutally, we're not talking...
Oh, not just a few shots.
Just a couple shots here.
No.
We're talking multiple shotgun blasts.
Multiple shotgun blasts.
The sheer violence of it immediately raises questions.
Yeah, what could drive someone to this?
What could possibly drive someone to this?
Right from the start.
Right?
The number of shots fired indicated a level of rage that went way beyond a simple robbery or a crime of passion.
Crime of passion.
This was personal.
This was personal.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about what happened right after the murders.
Okay.
It was Lyle and Eric who called 911.
Right.
And reports describe them as...
completely distraught.
Completely distraught, inconsolable.
Yeah.
They were putting on...
They were putting on quite a performance.
Quite a performance.
Yeah.
But even in those initial moments...
there were already some curious details that didn't quite add up.
Like what?
Like the fact that the police didn't bother to check the brothers for gunshot residue.
Interesting.
Something that could have been crucial evidence early on.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then there's the fact that they immediately try to point the finger at the mob.
Yeah.
Maybe playing on Jose's business dealings in the entertainment world.
Hoping
to create a distraction.
Let's see a distraction, yeah. All right, but here's where things take a truly bizarre turn.
Here's where it gets weird.
Okay.
In the weeks following the murders, Lyle and Eric embarked on a lavish spending spree.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how lavish are we talking?
We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh, wow.
On luxury cars, designer clothes.
Seriously.
Even a Rolex watch for Lyle.
A Rolex? It's like they hit the jackpot.
It's like they hit the jackpot. And a Porsche high-end restaurants.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't exactly scream grieving sons, does it?
Doesn't exactly scream grieving sons, no.
Yeah, no.
And it was this extravagant spending.
That's what.
That really put them on the radar of investigators, suggesting a possible financial motive.
Okay.
Something far more sinister than they were letting on.
So how did investigators start to see through this carefully crafted act?
Well, like a house of cards, it all started to crumble.
What do you mean, White? Little inconsistencies in their alibis.
Okay.
Witness statements didn't quite match up. And then there was Eric's friend. Craig Signorelli.
Oh, okay.
He dropped a bombshell, revealing that Eric had confessed to him about the murders.
Wait, he confessed to his friend?
Yeah.
What made him do that?
Well, it gets even stranger.
Okay.
Turns out, back in high school, Eric and Craig had co-written a screenplay.
Oh, no.
The plot.
Don't tell me.
A son who kills his parents to inherit their fortune.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's all a bit too close to home, isn't it?
It's like they were foreshadowing their own lives.
Yeah.
And hold on, didn't Lyle do something suspicious, too?
You're right.
Right after the murders?
Lyle made a frantic trip.
Yeah.
Back to the family home from Princeton.
Uh-huh.
And guess what?
I don't know.
He told a friend he deleted something from the family computer.
No way.
Possibly a new will.
Are you kidding me? Okay, so we've got a confession to a friend. A suspicious computer wipe.
Suspicious computer wipe.
And a spending spree that would make a lottery winner blush.
Oh, yeah.
It's looking pretty bad for the brothers.
It's looking pretty bad.
But they were still clinging to that mob story, weren't they?
They were, until Eric made a decision that would change everything.
What was that?
He started seeing a therapist.
Okay.
A man named Jerome Oziel.
All right.
And this is where the case takes a truly dramatic turn.
What happened?
During therapy, Eric confessed to the murders.
What?
And what he didn't know was that Dr. Oziel was recording every single session.
Whoa. Those recordings must have been the nail in the coffin, right?
You could say that.
I mean...
Those tapes became the smoking gun.
Wow.
The evidence that finally led to the brothers' arrests.
Okay.
But this is just the beginning of the story.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There's more.
The trials were about to become a media frenzy, a national obsession.
Wow. I can only imagine. Okay, so the confession tapes, they set the stage.
Set the stage.
Yeah.
For a wild ride.
A wild ride.
Yeah.
The brothers are arrested now. They're facing trial.
Right.
Did they stick to the mob story?
Nope. No. In a stunning courtroom twist, they completely changed their tune.
What?
Gone was the mob theory.
Oh, my God.
Now, they were claiming they acted in self-defense.
Whoa.
They alleged years of horrific abuse at the hands of their parents.
Seriously.
Including sexual abuse by their father, Jose.
Talk about a plot twist.
It was a bombshell.
So they went from blaming the mafia to claiming they were victims themselves?
To claiming they were victims themselves.
That's a pretty bold move.
It was a bombshell. Suddenly, the narrative shifted from cold-blooded killers to abused children driven to a desperate act.
All right.
The trials became this battle of narratives.
Yeah.
Were they truly victims seeking justice?
Okay.
Or was this a calculated play for sympathy?
Right.
A way to avoid a harsher sentence?
So what kind of evidence did they present to support these abuse claims?
Both brothers took the stand and gave very detailed accounts of the alleged abuse.
Okay.
Painting a picture of Jose as a controlling tyrant.
Right.
Who subjected them to physical, emotional, and sexual abuse for years.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
And what about their mother, Kitty?
Right.
Where did she fit into all of this?
They claimed she was an enabler.
Okay.
Complicit in the abuse.
Wow.
They even went as far as to say that she was abusive herself.
Really?
Both physically and emotionally.
So they completely flipped the script.
They flipped the script.
On that picture-perfect family image that we saw at the beginning.
They did.
But I have to ask.
Yeah.
Weren't people skeptical?
Of course.
I mean, they didn't mention any of this abuse until after they were arrested.
That was a major point of contention.
Yeah.
The prosecution argued that the abuse allegations were a complete fabrication.
Yep.
A desperate attempt to avoid the death penalty.
Did anyone back up their claims? Was there any evidence to support what they were saying?
There was some testimony from other family members, cousins, who claimed to have witnessed or heard about the abuse.
Right.
But the prosecution came back, swinging, pointing out inconsistencies in their stories, and offering alternative explanations for everything.
So it was a classic he said, she said situation.
It was a classic he said, she said.
Yeah. The jury had to decide.
The jury had to decide
who to believe.
Who to believe.
Right.
Two brothers claiming years of horrific abuse.
Right.
Or a prosecution team arguing it was all a lie.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a high-stakes game of credibility.
Yeah.
It really put the spotlight on the complexities of abuse.
Right.
The challenges of proving something that happened behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And the limitations of our legal system in addressing these kinds of issues.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
What about those incriminating therapy tapes?
Oh, yeah.
Did they come into play during the trials?
Absolutely.
I would imagine so.
The prosecution used those tapes to try and poke holes in the brothers' claims.
Right.
They pointed out that in the early recordings, Eric never mentioned sexual abuse at all.
Interesting.
He was mainly focused on his anger at his father's controlling behavior.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did those tapes reveal anything else that might have hurt the brothers' case?
There was one particularly chilling moment where Lyle and Eric were discussing their mother on tape. Lyle actually said that killing her might have been doing her a favor.
That's a disturbing thing to say.
It's a very disturbing thing to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to square that with their self-defense argument.
Yeah, it makes you question whether they were truly afraid for their lives or if something else was going on.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So that one comment.
Yeah. Along with other inconsistencies and questionable details, really planted seeds of doubt. About their claims.
Yeah.
It made people wonder if greed, not fear, might have been the real driving force behind the murders.
So after all the drama, Yeah, the conflicting testimonies and the shocking revelations.
Yeah.
What happened? What was the outcome of the first trial?
Well, after weeks of deliberation, the juries were hopelessly deadlocked.
Deadlocked.
They couldn't agree on a verdict.
Wow.
A mistrial was declared for both brothers.
So it was a hung jury?
Yeah.
Did they just let the brothers walk free?
Not so fast.
Oh.
The prosecution, determined to get a conviction,
Okay.
announced they would retry the brothers.
Wow.
But the second trial would be a very different affair,
Oh, how so?
with less media frenzy
Okay.
and much stricter rules about what evidence could be presented.
Gotcha.
And as we'll see, the outcome of that second trial would send shockwaves across the nation.
Okay. I am on the edge of my seat. We're going to have to take a break here, but join us at part 2, where we'll dive into the second trial, the brothers' lives behind bars, and the latest developments that have thrown this whole case wide open.
It's a wild ride.
It is a wild ride.
It's a wild ride.
We'll see you soon.
See you soon. Welcome back. We left off with a hung jury,
The hung jury.
a media frenzy,
I remember.
and the prosecution gearing up for a second trial, determined to get a conviction.
Yeah, the stakes were definitely higher this time around.
Oh, yeah?
What was different about the second trial?
What?
Besides less media attention, of course.
The atmosphere was completely different.
Oh, really?
Judge Weisberg, who presided over the second trial,
Yeah.
was very strict
Okay.
about limiting media access and controlling the narrative.
So,
Remember how the first trial was a media circus?
yeah, like cameras everywhere.
Cameras everywhere.
Reporters clamoring for every detail.
Reporters clamoring for every detail.
Reporters clamoring for every detail.
It was This time, it was all about keeping the focus on the facts and the law.
Okay. Less drama, more substance.
Yeah.
Makes sense. But did anything change in terms of the legal strategy?
But
Evidence presented?
there were some significant shifts.
Okay. Like what?
For starters, Lyle chose not to testify this time around.
Really?
In the first trial, both brothers took the stand
Yeah.
and gave those emotional accounts of abuse.
Right.
But this time, only Eric testified.
Interesting. Any theories on why Lyle decided to stay silent?
Well,
Was it a legal strategy
it's hard to say for sure.
or something more personal?
It could have been a strategic decision by the defense team.
Okay.
Maybe they felt that Lyle's testimony in the first trial hadn't been as effective.
Right.
Or maybe they were concerned about inconsistencies in his story.
Okay. I can see how that would be a risk.
Yeah.
So Eric testified again.
Right.
But did he stick to the abuse claims?
He did.
Okay.
However, Judge Weisberg was much more cautious this time around, placing stricter limitations on what Eric was allowed to say
About the abuse.
about the alleged abuse.
Gotcha.
Remember, the prosecution had argued that these claims were completely fabricated,
Uh-huh.
and Judge Weisberg seemed to be leaning towards skepticism.
Yeah, so the judge was basically saying, show me the proof. Were there any new witnesses or new evidence introduced in this second trial?
There was one piece of new evidence that really rocked the boat.
Okay, tell me.
Lyle's former fiancée, Jamie Pisarcik,
Lyle's former fiancé.
took the stand
Okay.
and testified that Lyle had pressured her to lie under oath during the first trial.
Whoa.
She said he gave her specific instructions on what to say
Get out.
to support their abuse claims.
Wow, that's huge.
It was a bombshell.
If the jury believed her,
Right.
that would completely undermine their entire defense.
Yeah.
It would mean they were willing to lie and manipulate to get away with murder.
It painted Lyle as a master manipulator.
Yeah.
Someone who was willing to use and discard people to get what he wanted.
So it sounds like the prosecution had a much stronger case this time.
They did.
But did the defense have anything new to counter these setbacks?
They did their best.
Okay.
They brought in expert witnesses to talk about the psychological effects of child abuse.
Uh-huh.
And their argument was
Yeah.
that even if there were inconsistencies in the brothers' stories,
Right.
those inconsistencies could be a result of the trauma they experienced.
So they were basically saying that trauma can distort memories.
Right.
And even if the brothers weren't being completely truthful,
Yeah.
it didn't mean they hadn't been abused.
Exactly. It was a complex argument.
Yeah.
And it asked the jury to consider the long-term impact of abuse
Okay.
on a person's behavior
Yeah.
and their ability to recall events accurately.
It's a tough sell, but I can see their point.
Right.
So what was the verdict?
Well,
Did the jury buy the defense's arguments?
this time the jury reached a decision.
Okay.
And it wasn't what the brothers were hoping for.
Okay.
They found both Lyle and Eric guilty on all counts. 2 counts of first-degree murder
Okay.
and conspiracy to commit murder.
So after all the twists and turns, the conflicting testimonies, and those explosive courtroom revelations,
Right.
the Menendez brothers were finally convicted.
They were.
What kind of sentence did they receive?
They were given the harshest possible punishment,
Which is,
life in prison without the possibility of parole.
wow.
It was a sentence that reflected the gravity of their crimes.
Right.
And the jury's belief that they had acted with premeditation and malice.
Life behind bars.
Yeah.
No chance of freedom. That's a heavy sentence.
It is.
So what's happened to them since the convictions?
Well,
when they appealed?
They have filed multiple appeals over the years.
Okay.
But so far, they've all been denied.
Mm-hmm. So they remain incarcerated.
They remain incarcerated to this day.
To this day.
But their story doesn't end there.
Oh, really? There's more?
There have been some interesting developments in recent years.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
That have added new layers to this already complicated case.
What kind of developments?
For one, in 2018, Lyle and Eric were finally reunited.
What?
They had been housed in separate prisons for decades,
Mm-hmm.
but they were transferred to the same unit.
Really?
Apparently, their reunion was quite emotional.
Yeah, I bet after all these years, being back together must have been surreal.
Must have been surreal.
But what about their day-to-day lives in prison? Are they just sitting in their cells? Or are they trying to make something of their time?
It seems they're both trying to find ways to cope.
Okay.
And maybe even make amends.
Okay.
Lyle, for example, has become involved in prison reform initiatives.
Wow.
He started a program focused on improving living conditions.
Interesting.
And creating more opportunities for rehabilitation within the prison system.
So he's trying to do some good.
It makes you wonder what motivates someone in his position to do something like that.
Yeah. I mean, is it genuine remorse?
Right.
Or a way to cope with his guilt?
It's hard to know for sure what's going on in his mind.
Yeah.
But it does suggest a desire for change.
Okay.
A willingness to acknowledge the impact of his actions and try to do some good in the world, even from behind bars.
That's powerful.
And what about Eric?
Yeah. What about Eric?
Has he found any ways to channel his energy?
Yeah.
Or find purpose in prison?
Yeah.
Eric's path has been more focused on personal growth and connection.
Okay.
He got married in 1999.
Really?
To a woman named Tammy Sackerman.
Wow.
She's been a vocal supporter of his.
Okay.
And their relationship has brought attention
to
the challenges and complexities of maintaining relationships while incarcerated.
A prison marriage.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
It's a reminder that even those who have committed terrible crimes are still human beings.
Right.
Capable of change, growth, and connection.
So even though they're serving life sentences, it sounds like both brothers are trying to find ways to live meaningful lives.
Yeah.
But what about the case itself?
Yeah.
Is there anything new happening on the legal front?
There's been a recent development.
Oh, really?
That has thrown another wrench into the Menendez saga.
Tell me.
And it all centers around those abuse allegations that form the core of their defense.
I knew there had to be another twist.
In 2023,
former
Menudo member Roy Rosello publicly accused Jose Menendez of raping him when he was a teenager.
This is huge.
This accusation directly links Jose Menendez to sexual abuse.
Yeah.
Adding a chilling layer of credibility
to their claims.
To the brothers' claims.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this Roy Rosello, he was signed to RCA Records?
Yes.
The same company where Jose Menendez was an executive, right?
Exactly.
So their paths would have crossed.
Their paths would have crossed.
That's big.
Rosello's accusation suggests a pattern of predatory behavior on Jose's part.
Yeah.
It raises the possibility that the abuse the brothers described might have been part of a much larger and darker story.
I can't believe this is coming out now after all these years.
Right.
I bet the brothers' lawyers are all over this.
They are.
What have they done?
In May 2023, they filed a new appeal. Citing Rosello's accusation as new evidence that could potentially change the outcome of their case.
Wow.
They're arguing that this new information casts reasonable doubt on their original convictions and warrants a new trial.
So after all these years, the Menendez brothers might get a second chance at justice.
They might.
It's incredible to think that this case might be reopened.
It's a long shot.
Yeah.
But it's not impossible.
It raises some interesting questions about the justice system.
It does.
I mean, can new evidence even decades later be enough to overturn a conviction?
Right.
How do we balance the need for finality in legal proceedings with the possibility that new information might change our understanding of a case?
It's a legal and ethical minefield.
So what's the latest on this appeal?
Well, has there been any movement?
In a surprising turn of events, Los Angeles District Attorney George Gascon
announced in October 2024 that his office is actively reviewing the brothers' appeal.
Wow, so this isn't just a long shot.
No.
There's a real chance this could lead to something.
There is.
What are the possible outcomes here?
It's hard to say for certain.
Yeah.
The DA could decide to reopen the case. And potentially offer the brothers a plea deal. They could even decide to drop the charges altogether.
Wow.
Or they could oppose the appeal and fight to keep the brothers behind bars.
So we're all just waiting on the edge of our seats to see what happens next.
We are.
I have a feeling this story is far from over.
I agree. This latest development has thrown the whole case wide open.
Yeah.
It's a testament to the fact that the truth can be elusive.
Right.
And that sometimes even the most seemingly settled cases can be upended by new information.
It's a reminder that justice isn't always black and white.
Right.
There are so many shades of gray.
So many shades of gray.
And this case embodies that complexity in a way that few others do. But I think we need to pause here. Join us for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll analyze the potential impact of this new evidence and explore the lingering questions that continue to surround this captivating case. We're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into the Menendez brothers case.
Buckle up.
It's been a wild ride, hasn't it?
It has been a wild ride.
I mean, from Beverly Hills glamour to shocking confessions to this potential legal twist that could rewrite this whole story.
It could rewrite history.
So we left off with the DA's office reviewing the brothers' appeal.
Right.
Based on Roy Rosella's accusation against Jose Menendez.
Huge development.
What's fascinating is how this new information
forces us to re-examine everything we thought we knew.
It really does.
About the case.
It's like someone just tossed a grenade into a settled narrative.
A bomb.
So what are the legal experts saying about the strength of this appeal?
Legal opinions are divided.
Okay.
Some experts are skeptical. They argue that Rosella's accusation, while serious, is just one person's account.
Right.
It doesn't definitively prove that Jose Menendez abused his own sons.
Okay.
It just shows he was capable of it.
So they're saying even if Jose was abusive to others, it doesn't automatically mean he abused Lyle and Eric?
That's the crux of their argument.
Okay.
The prosecution could still argue that the brothers' primary motive was greed.
Right.
That the abuse claims were a smokescreen. A calculated strategy to sway the jury.
But other experts are more optimistic about the appeal, right?
There's definitely another camp that believes this new evidence could be a turning point.
Okay.
They say Rosella's accusation combined with the brothers' original claims and any corroborating testimony from other family members could create enough reasonable doubt to justify a new trial.
Okay.
They argue the original juries might have seen things differently.
Right.
If this information had been on the table back then.
Interesting. So we have a real legal tug of war here.
We do.
What's your take? Do you think this appeal has legs?
It's impossible to say for sure.
Okay.
It all boils down to how the DA's office interprets this new evidence.
Yeah.
And what arguments the defense brings to the table.
Right.
But one thing's certain.
Yeah.
This new development has breathed life back into a case.
I mean, it has.
That many considered closed.
Right.
It's reignited the debate, and that's what makes it so captivating.
Exactly. It all circles back to that central question, doesn't it?
Right.
Were Lyle and Eric abused children driven to a desperate act?
Right.
Or were they cold-blooded killers driven by greed?
That is the heart of this case.
This case isn't just about legal technicalities and evidence. It's about human nature, the complexities of family dynamics.
Absolutely.
The murky line between victimhood and culpability.
It forces us to confront those uncomfortable truths about abuse justice and how little we truly understand about human behavior.
And it throws up questions with no easy answers.
Absolutely.
How much weight do we give to claims of past abuse, especially when they surface years later?
Right.
How do we balance the need for justice with the possibility of rehabilitation and redemption?
Right. These are questions that society continues to grapple with.
Yeah.
And the Menendez brothers case is a stark and unsettling mirror.
It really is.
Reflecting these very complexities.
As we wrap up this deep dive, what stands out to you as the most impactful aspect?
For me, it's the case's ability to spark debate and challenge our perceptions, even after all these years.
It's amazing how it still does that.
It's not just a true crime story.
Right.
It's a window into our own biases.
Absolutely.
Our preconceived notions about family.
Right.
And our evolving understanding of trauma and its long-lasting effects.
I couldn't agree more. It's a story that gets under your skin.
It does.
That makes you question everything you thought you knew.
Yeah.
And it reminds us that even in the most sensationalized cases, there are layers of complexity.
Layers of complexity.
And nuance that we may never fully untangle.
We may never.
So as we wait for the DA's decision on the appeal, we're left with these lingering questions.
Lingering questions.
If the brothers get a new trial, will justice finally be served? Or will the truth remain shrouded in the shadows of this family tragedy?
We may never have definitive answers.
Yeah.
But the Menendez brothers case compels us to keep asking those questions, to keep searching for understanding.
Absolutely.
And to acknowledge the gray areas.
Right.
That exist in even the most sensationalized cases.
Perhaps that's the most valuable takeaway of all.
I think so.
The pursuit of truth and understanding is an ongoing process.
It is.
And sometimes the journey is just as important as the destination.
It really is.
Thank you for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
For this deep dive into the Menendez brothers case.
Fascinating case.
It's a story that's clearly not over yet, and we'll be sure to keep you updated on any new developments.
We will.
Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and never stop seeking the truth.
Absolutely.